Okay, so let's go with this very first episode. myNewsWrap, SAP and Microsoft, with news from the SAP and Microsoft universe, and especially where both universes meet. My name is Christian Lechner. On the left-hand corner, you see my Twitter handle. I will make this podcast now, I guess, on a weekly basis. And as I said in the teaser, it's, opinionated. So it's kind of the best of what I found on news on Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on and so forth that came across my mind and that I think are important to know. So without further ado, let's dive into the topic itself. The basic page, the basic information area is my GitHub repo with myNewsWrap, where you find all the links for the episode. And when I finish the episode, I will also link the video, and I will also try to extract the audio stream so that we have a little podcast there. Whenever you see me glancing to the left-hand side, I'm looking if the stream is okay. So, without any further notice, let's go. Let's jump in. First topic, SAP Cloud Platform. There have been some blogs coming out in July and August that I think are quite important with respect to SAP Cloud Platform. They make a clear announcement now concerning the ongoing strategy, how it's moving forward. From my perspective, okay, now it's official. We kind of expected something like that over the last years. So the strategy is multi-cloud. So it's no longer Neo and all the other things. It's clearly multi-cloud. Nevertheless, it's also clearly stated that Neo will be available in the future. It will not be retired. There is no official end of maintenance or something like that. So all the customers that are working on Neo are kind of safe. Nevertheless, it's not the go-to runtime on Cloud Foundry. It's multi-cloud. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. And what's, from my perspective, also important, it's multi-cloud. So it's not exclusively Cloud Foundry, but it's all the runtimes that you can use within Cloud Foundry, like the ABAP runtime, like Kima, like Cloud Foundry, or like the serverless runtime that you can use in order to build your applications. Now, this announcement now became serious for all the trial users. You can see it here. This was announced on the beginning of August, and you probably have already experienced it because it, I think, became true in mid of August. The cloud platform trial will no longer be supported for new environments. So if you have, or if you want to have a Sap Cloud Platform trial account, you will automatically be directed to the Cloud Foundry environment. During my let's say gathering of information, there was another blog post available about an update of the HANA database in the Neo environment. And as of today, or I tried to call it, and it's no longer available within SAP community. So I then removed it from my notices. So let's see if there will be an update or not on SAP Cloud Platform Neo. So first part, purely SAP, purely Sap Cloud Platform. If you want to do something within the future, go to the multi-cloud environment, go to Kima, Cloud Foundry, whatsoever. Now we have a second topic, which is kind of en vogue in the SAP area. It's the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model. And there was a really nice blog post that came out, I think, last week. A bit more than last week. by Andrew Lund, who wrote together a very nice blog post describing how to deal with multi-tenancy in the cloud application programming model. I'm not into the depth of the SAP Cloud application programming model, but as far as I saw, the documentation was kind of mediocre when I last looked at it, especially when it came to multi-tenancy. And this blog post, which is really lengthy, guides you through setting the stage with the cloud application programming model and multi-tenancy. That's, I think, really nice read, nice information how to deal with this stuff. Now, as you all know, the cloud application programming model has kind of a first-class citizen when it comes to persistency when you deploy it to the SAP Cloud Platform, and that's SAP HANA, the HANA database. Well, that's kind of logical when you take a look at SAP strategy. However, it's not the best fit for each and every problem that you have when you implement applications, when you implement extensions and use the cloud application programming model. So maybe you would want another persistency that's better suited, like a Postgres or a Mongo or vendor-specific database like Cosmos DB. Yeah, and well, the cloud application programming model opened up, so you can now implement persistency to other databases than HANA. And of course, the person who called for it the most, from my perspective, that was Gregor Wolf. Well, he put up a little repo on his beer shop example based on cloud application programming model, and he uses Postgres SQL for persistence. So here is kind of the setup described and what you have to do to make it run locally on a Docker container, and how to deploy it to SAP Cloud Platform. Now, you know probably that SAP Cloud Platform does no longer have a managed Postgres SQL database service within the offering, so you have to bring it yourself. Gregor used the Postgres SQL database of Microsoft Azure and hooking it up via the open service broker. There is a description about that. However, be aware that the GitHub repo clearly states, so this GitHub repo of Microsoft clearly states that this open service broker implementation is no longer supported by Microsoft, so not officially supported. So this is not production ready. Also, the Postgres persistency implementation is not production ready. I think it supports basically a select statement, so not yet an update. But it's on GitHub, so I think Gregor would be really happy if you support him in the work and contribute to this repo and contribute in order to make things possible with the cloud application programming model with persistencies that go beyond SAP HANA. So really nice thing here. And I also read a tweet of Volker Busek the other day, I think, where he stated that he might be thinking about putting Cosmos DB as a persistency. This would be also really nice, I think. Now, finishing up with the cloud application programming model, there is one project that Christian Drum, who is professor, is doing with his students, I think, in the next semester, and that's end-to-end SAP ERP processes. And I think you should watch this repo because I think this is really a cool proof of concept showcase, you name it, putting together kind of everything within the SAP world. So we have the SAP programming model for Fiori with CDS, BOPF, Fiori elements, where I think he's struggling at the moment a bit. Then we have the SAP Cloud Platform services, including workflow service, business rule service, and that stuff. And we have for sure CAP with JavaScript. So I think it's worth to take a look at that one if you want to have a really end-to-end model for that. And I just saw within the comments, yeah, that he started last semester with that. I think he started with the ABAP part, and now he's extending it to CAP. So really cool stuff. Now let's go on in the SAP area. So we have now talked a bit about the cloud application programming model. There is another thing, as I said, this is opinionated news overview, and I really fell in love with Kima. Kima is one of the runtimes that's available on the SAP Cloud Platform. Unfortunately, not yet as a trial. So you have to really subscribe to that one, but you can also deploy Kima, which is an open source project, to Azure or to Google Cloud Platform. And there is some really nice hands-on, let's say, blog series by Anna Young, who is digging her way through Kima, struggling here, struggling there, and sharing the knowledge on the SAP community. That's really something. If you're interested into Kima, for sure there is the Kima web page where you can look up all the things. But this blog series really, shows you where probably you will also struggle when you get in touch with the Kima and how to overcome all that stuff. So I really like those things from Anna. It's already the third part, so if you're interested into Kima, if you want to take a look into Kima, dive into that repo, into that blog series. Okay, so that's basically all about programming runtimes, news that I think makes sense. We have now a little bit of stuff that didn't fit anywhere else, but I think is important. So we have one news that came out end of August about the SAP Graph Api. So this kind of universal interface API that you can use in order to interact with the SAP system that is constructed around the major processes of SAP. So they have this, I think, 5 processes from hire to retire, procurement to pay, and so on. And this is kind of the universal way how to address the entities, the business objects in there. And there was a Graph API sandbox available since quite some time, where you could do GET requests against the sandbox. And now you can register. And if you register, you can also make write operations, and you can reset your sandbox to the initial state. And I think this, as stated here, this is really nice because this allows you to do some more deep dives when you do, let's say, proof of concepts with the Graph API, try to get your hands on that stuff. So that's cool. Looking forward to that. And there's also one thing that I could recommend. Probably you know the Coffee Corner Radio. If not, now you know it. SAP's unofficial community podcast. And there is one really great episode that came out on the end of August about DevOps in the SAP area. And it's kind of the who is who in the SAP community who is talking about there with Martin Fischer and Jacob Kier, I hope I pronounced that correctly, who host the podcast, and with Sasha Junkert, Ethan Hewitt, Chris Connigan, about DevOps in the SAP world. Now, those of you who are more in the Microsoft world would say, so what? SAP is kind of a special snowflake, especially when it comes to ABAP, to implement DevOps. So if you are interested in the topic, I highly recommend listening to that episode. It's a long episode and not everything is said there, but it's really worth listening to. Okay, so we are now switching over from the SAP universe to the Microsoft universe. And for those of you who know me, I'm a big fan of Azure Functions, of serverless when it comes to the offering on Microsoft Azure. And there is a so-called Azure Functions live call every month, where the product management of Azure Functions hosts, usually it's 1 hour approximately, YouTube live stream where they tell everything what's new. So what happened in the last month, what was released, what will come, and they also have some kind of community area where they draw your attention to some blog posts. And I really like that format. It's really open. It's open for discussion, so you can discuss with product management and ask questions and so on. That's cool. And August was a blast. So it was like Christmas. So you had a lot of news. There is one thing that's upcoming that's really cool concerning serverless APIs, where you have kind of a code-first approach in order to design APIs with Azure Functions and then deploy them to the API management on Azure, or the other way around, based on OpenAI specifications. So that's really something that's upcoming, and I'm looking forward to that. And there are some other cool news about Azure Functions. One thing is the new extension bundle release is out finally, which allows you to hook into the nearly newest versions of extensions without manually installing them into your function via the Func CLI. And this is the one that I personally have been waiting for. So the durable framework got updated quite some time ago, and now we have it available via extension bundles. So finally, durable entities are there via the extension bundle mechanism. One further announcement that I think is really cool is the Azure Function extension for Dapper. For those of you who do not know Dapper, Dapper is also an open source project triggered by Microsoft. It's a distributed application runtime, so it provides you kind of your Lego parts, so your building blocks if you want to do cloud native application development, and takes away the heavy lifting concerning state management and such things. Also was written here distributed tracing, so I think this sentence here is really putting it up in what Dapper does. And you can now hook up Dapper with Azure Functions, so Azure Functions can react on Dapper events. I think there is also an output binding, if I'm not completely mistaken. So you can now interact with Dapper in Azure Functions and vice versa. Why is this cool from my perspective? Because I think in the future a lot of applications will consist of two parts. We have some stable core, which will be, if it's not SAP S4, based on a kind of a Kubernetes based infrastructure, where Dapper is deployed as a sidecar, helping you with your microservices, and you will have your extensions around this core that will probably be serverless or something like that. So at least that's something that I think will be coming up, and this is kind of the first step of Microsoft enabling these scenarios. So that's cool stuff. There are a lot of other announcements, so if you really want to know everything, take a look at the over 1 hour session of the folks. There are some other news about Azure Functions. So one very, very nice pattern is using durable functions to manage Azure batch jobs. So using serverless and the state management of durable functions in order to trigger Azure batch jobs that are long running, and then resume the serverless orchestration by raising an event and informing the durable framework to resume work. That's a very nice pattern how to combine those two worlds. I really like the idea of that one, so it's kind of work in progress, but well, I thought it was worth mentioning it. And last but not least, one topic not only for Azure Functions but also for AWS Lambda or other things is how do I handle my secrets when I work with my serverless functions. So how can they access resources within the cloud? And there is one thing that you can use that's described within this blog post. So you can use so-called Azure managed identities, so the user managed identities that you assign to your function, that you basically assign to the resource that you want to use. And this way, follow the principle of least privilege. So the function can then really only call this one resource with the very well defined authorizations within the identity, which reduces the blast radius if there is a security problem. So this is described here. If you're interested in that, take a look at it. That was all from the Microsoft universe, if I remember correctly. Yes. Now let's go in between SAP and Microsoft. What can we do if we combine both worlds? What's new? What are blocks that are interesting in that area? There is one use case written down here. It's the combination of Azure Cognitive Services within the SAP Cloud Platform. That's from my perspective. I mean, the use case per se is not production ready, and I don't think that was the goal of the blog post. But it kind of really nicely shows how to combine both worlds, the SAP Cloud Platform and Microsoft Azure, with cognitive services, which are pre-trained machine learning services that you can use, which are already quite powerful from my perspective. And well, this blog really nicely shows how to combine those two and how to make that work. It's also, from my perspective, a nice example that it's not this religious discussion. Should we do SAP Cloud Platform or should we do Microsoft Azure, because they cannot talk to each other? I don't know why these discussions come up. It's really clearly showing how you can combine both worlds and get the benefit by combining both worlds. Now, as soon as you want to combine both worlds, there are some questions that come up, especially when it comes to security, principal propagation, all that stuff that we, well, have to do, but at least from my perspective, they always give me a bit of a headache if you don't do them on a day-by-day basis. And well, there are two blog posts that come for the rescue. There is one by Roman Broich, which is, I think it's going to hands-on lab on GitHub, and it demonstrates your principal propagation via a scenario where you have an Azure bot service that's integrated into Teams that uses Azure Active Directory as IDP. And there is a connection to the SAP NetWeaver system, so to an SAP ABAP system that's also using Azure AD as IDP. And this lab that you can also do yourself shows you how to wire up things and how to have decent principal propagation. Next topic that I want to draw your attention to is from the same area. We have principal propagation now also in, or a blog about that, in a multi-cloud solution between Microsoft Azure and SAP Cloud Platform. So we now just have Azure and SAP Cloud Platform, no ABAP system, by Martin Repple. I think those guys, those folks of you who have done the OpenSAP course on SAP Cloud Platform, he always gave you the sessions about security. He now changed from SAP to Microsoft as a cloud solution architect. And yeah, this blog post, which is also quite lengthy, tells you how to set up all the bits and pieces in order to go along with principal propagation between the two cloud platforms. Yeah, so that was it on the interface between SAP and Microsoft, the news that I saw that I found interesting. Now let's go to, well, a little bit about events and educations that are upcoming or that are already running. We have the Devtoberfest. It's already running since I think 2 weeks, which is kind of format that's for developers in order to enable developers, because as you know, SapTech this year is a virtual event, so I think there will not be that many hands-on since and no developer garage for sure. So this kind of compensates that and delivers a lot of educational content. It started 2 weeks ago with SAP Cloud Platform Workflow Service. This week, I think it was the RESTful App Programming Model, and next week it is Cloud Application Programming Model, if I remember correctly. So these sessions are, I think, quite nice. There will also be some kind of a hacking session, 1 week long, on open source projects on whatsoever. So if you want to stay updated, either go to this page, or within this page there is the one central repository where you get all the information, and that's the GitHub repository on the SAP Devtoberfest. Now there is one further thing that I want to draw your attention to. It's the Serverless September of Microsoft. I have linked the pages here. This is kind of celebrating the whole September. It's like the Devtoberfest for serverless. Let's put it that way. So there is every day there is new content on this page that are linked here about different topics about serverless on Microsoft Azure. So if you're a fan of that, I would recommend to go there. Then there's one thing that I have put into the show notes, and yesterday there was an email sent out by OpenSAP about this course. It's extending SAP processes to Microsoft Azure, which I think is a very valuable topic. And this course was postponed. It should take place in October, and now it says it's coming soon. You can still enroll yourself to the course, so it's quite some people who are waiting for the course. And to be honest, I have no idea why they postponed it. It's a bit of a strange move. I'm quite looking forward about all the chit chat that goes around why this was postponed in the community, because I have never seen a delay or postponing of a course on OpenSAP, but yeah, let's see what's there. For those of you who do streaming, like me now with my very first episode, so I hope everything works fine. There is one thing that I want to draw your attention to, which was a gap in Teams. In order to hook in Teams into something like OBS, you needed the NDI interface, and that's now available within Teams. However, your admin has to activate it, and depending on your internal IT, this might be an issue, but in principle, it's there. So now I also, as one part of the show, want to draw your attention to the community. to some folks in the community or to some streams. So I want to draw your attention to the SAP on Azure YouTube channel, which has some super cool videos on combining Microsoft with SAP. For example, here recently Power Automate and AI Builder came out. Yeah, that's nice 10 minutes that you can spend. And there is a really cool podcast series, which is hosted by Holger Bruchelt, Robert Boban, and I think Goran with a last name, I don't remember. And they talk about SAP on Azure, while I try to focus more on development topics. This focus more on infrastructural topics. I mean, and Robert Boban is kind of the I don't know, godfather when it comes to SAP on Azure, so you can ask him anything. They also have guests from Microsoft from time to time, so it's really also nice. They, I think, if I remember correctly, for 2 minutes ago, stopped recording the new episode that will come out this evening or tomorrow. So this is something that I want to draw your attention to. And I also want to draw your attention to two guys that you should follow if you're interested in SAP and Microsoft. One is Martin Pangratz. I linked his SAP community page here. He really has some super cool blogs about integrating SAP with Microsoft. I don't know if he's that well known in the community, but he really has content that's worth the read from my perspective. So take a look at this guy. And as you saw before, there was one blog post by Roman Broich, who is Cloud Solution Architect, who is also focusing on mostly on integration topics, especially when it comes to integrating, for example, Teams with SAP systems. And he is not active on the SAP community, but he's pushing the stuff out on LinkedIn. So you can follow him there. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the news wrap up of this week. As I said before, you can look all the links up here in my GitHub repo. I will have a new branch for each episode. If you have any input, any news that you want to push, leave me an issue. If you have any feedback, leave me an issue. I will also link here the video as soon as it's available on YouTube, and I will also link this, let's say, audio experiment if the kind of audio stream works as a podcast for itself. Yes, so that was it, folks. I'm looking at the questions now. There is a new course on RAP here, starting next month. They might have canceled I'm quite sure that, they canceled everything because RAP is that cool. Debatable opinion. There's one feedback concerning another YouTube channel who is pushing out a lot of content, learning content, I think on JavaScript, on UI5, on now CDS. I will link this guy next week. It's Nabit. I think those who are in the sub community probably know him. But that's definitely worth a mention. Yeah. So if there are no more questions, and I don't see any more coming in, I thank you very much for listening to me and watching me drive through the pages. I hope you liked it. Feedback, as I said, is welcome. And, well, I hope to see you virtually kind of next week. Stay healthy. Till then, bye.